nice to have a new face here, and then obviously Shirley and I are here every week. So before we jump in and introduce Linnie to everybody, the theme of today is the very exciting release of Voetspore, which is commonly now known as footprints in Afrikaans, but it's got quite a few differences, so we'll chat about that just now. But for now, Shirley, we'll just let Linnie have the floor. And Linnie, can you give us your pedigree, your homeschooling pedigree, so that folks know who you are if they don't already?
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Shirley and Wendy, for this opportunity. I'm a mother of 8, and the ages at this stage is between 11 and 26 years old. And I started homeschooling in 2000. And at that stage, my number 3 was the baby. So it was quite a plunge. And there wasn't internet, there wasn't Facebook groups, there was almost no support at that stage. So it was learning by your own mistakes and try and figure out what to do. I always think about my 2 groups, Group A, or my Team A and Team B, because the first 4 children is about 3 years apart. So that was my first ones that I started homeschooling. And then I have my Team B, that's the 4 boys, but it's about 5 years from the oldest to the youngest. And I think I enjoy my Team B so much. 4 of the children is already done with homeschooling. Danica, who's number 4, will end within the next few days. And then it's the 4 boys. And I'm almost doing everything different with my Team B than with my Team A. So I'm really privileged to have that second chance. And yes, we are doing much more a Charlotte Mason, living books kind of homeschooling, and I absolutely love it. Awesome. And that's why I'm here, part of Voetspore.
Yeah, that's right. So, Shils, maybe you want to say why Linnie is here today, and with an introduction with what Voetspore is for our homeschool community.
Yeah, so Wendy and I have got Linnie involved on our team, and she's helping us edit Voetspore, which is our new homeschool curriculum in Afrikaans. And obviously, because Afrikaans isn't our mother tongue, she's helping with the editing. It's been translated by another mom, and Linnie's on our team of editors. And of course, she's a homeschooling mom and also wants to use it, and she's quite familiar with our Footprints products. So we hope to get her to talk with us a little bit about what Voetspore is. So it's a unique product. I think we've really got a niche in South Africa to create this unit study program, but it's based on stories. So you're going to learn about South Africa and our history and our culture and our environment through reading good Afrikaans stories and using reference books that are also in your children's mother tongue or your family's mother tongue. And then the manual that we've given is a book of ideas and background information to help you make lessons from topics that come up in those stories. And children love stories, and that's why people for the last 17 years or so have loved the English Footprints programs, because children enjoy reading the stories so much more than they would reading a textbook that's just dry and factual and boring, and there's no characters and there's no emotion and there's no plot and excitement in it. It's just dry facts.
When we did our live stream a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned a situation that you found yourself in with your children who had only been exposed to, or for the majority had been exposed to English literature. Why don't you share a little bit, and please feel free to speak in Afrikaans. I'm sure our listeners would love that as well, about what the impact of that was.
Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity to speak in Afrikaans sometimes. Ek 'n groot probleem vir my wat ek begin ervaar het met veral met my jonger 4 seuns, wat ek meer kans gehad het om mee regtig intens te kan fokus op hulle tuisonderrigprogram, was om vir hulle baie meer te lees. Ek het nie so baie gelees vir my ouer kinders nie, so ek het regtig eers die behoefte met my jonger 4 seuns ontdek, toe ek begin sien as my kinders 'n woord nie verstaan nie, moes ek vir hulle die woord in Engels verduidelik. Hulle woordeskat was regtig gebrekkig geweest, omdat ons hoofsaaklik Engelse boeke gelees het. Want daar is nie regtig Afrikaanse reeds deur ander mense geleesde boeke, wat ek weet, hierdie boek gaan op hierdie onderwerp van toepassing wees deur 'n lekker storie, wat hulle onmiddellik kan laat hulle inleef in die storie, hulle kan identifiseer met die karakters, hulle kan die omgewing begin ervaar deur hierdie storie, en skielik het hulle nie die woordeskat om dit te verstaan nie. So, in Engels moes ons dit maar in Engels lees, en mamma moes maar die hele tyd probeer vertaal, so waar ver ons gaan, maar dit was stresvol, want dit was nie 'n gemaklike, net 'n lekker sit en lees nie. Die oomblik wat ek besef het, ek moet nou vir hulle gaan begin lees, moes ek my thinking cap opsit, en my woordeboek langs my hê, en ons moet hierdie goed begin doen. So dit het amper meer partykeer gevoel soos 'n taalles. En daar was van die boeke van Footprints, wat reeds in Afrikaans was, so dit was so lekker om van daardie boeke by te lees. So die oomblik toe ek hoor van Voetspore in Afrikaans, en ek sien maar hier is Afrikaanse boeke, ons gaan die hele curriculum kan doen met Afrikaanse boeke. Ons gaan regtig net kan lekker sit en lees. Was ek was regtig, I was overjoyed. Dit is
Ja.
lieflik om kinders se woordeskat in Afrikaans gaan nou 'n kans kry om ontwikkel.
So you've worked really closely with us now in the editing side of it. How do you foresee yourself using it? Because it is slightly different to the Footprints program, where we use the books as the sort of focus and then drew lessons out of it. You've used a bit of the Footprints, so you know. Whereas this one, we're looking at a period of history and making that the unit and adding the books into it. How are you going to work it in your home? Have you thought that through yet?
Ek dink ek het al begin dink, ons het al Footprints gedoen tot en met net voor die Franse Hugenote. Maar ek sal baie graag van die Afrikaanse boeke wat nou bykom, weer 'n keer wil lees. Veral omdat dit Afrikaans gaan wees, ons gaan dit baie vinniger lees, en hulle het al 'n baie goeie idee van Bartolomeus Dias, Vasco da Gama, Jan van Riebeeck se aankoms. So hulle het 'n goeie idee daarvan, maar ek sal tog van die Afrikaanse boeke wel lees, net omdat vir hulle dit 'n lekker interessante iets by te sit. En dan dink ek, gaan ek nog steeds die effek gebruik van ons lees die boek, ons gebruik julle handleiding as my skone Engelse woord springboard, die plek van waar ek kan wegbeweeg om verder navorsing te doen. Want vir my is die tipe manier waarop ek tuisskool, is vir my met, wat kan ons gaan self verder ondersoek? Wat kan ons nog gaan kry? Want daar's soveel meer as net dit wat ons in 'n boek, en dis tog wat ons vir ons kinders wil leer. Ons wil hê hulle moet weet hoe om navorsing te doen, hulle moet weet hoe om daardie navorsing te evalueer, en dan hoe om dit te gebruik. En ek dink dit wat lekker is, daar word, hier en daar is daar 'n, ek dink nou maar net vinnig aan die komeet wat verskyn het in Jan van Riebeeck se tyd, en onmiddellik het ons gaan, die seuns is absoluut in op sterrekunde en daai tipe goed, so onmiddellik gaan ek dit gebruik om dan verder te leer van komete. So ek dink, julle handleiding het so presies die hoofpunte raakgevat. In die stories kom ekstra idees by, en van daar af gebruik ons kinders om vir ons verder te wys. Goed, wat wil julle nou nog verder? Wat is 'n interessante ding wat julle in hierdie hoofstuk aangeraak het, wat julle verder oor wil gaan lees? So ek dink ek gaan nog steeds dit absoluut gebruik, soos wat julle Footprints ook was, deur die kinders te vra om verder vir my te sê wat ons verder gaan ondersoek.
Let's chat a little bit about the interesting incident we had when we were proofreading it, and we were reading about the Battle of Blood River, and we discovered that different resources have got different or conflicting information. Linnie, miskien moet jy verduidelik.
ek dink dit was vir my baie interessant en dit was in die gesin en tot met die grootouers het ons vreeslik daaroor gesels, want ek het onthou van skooltyd dat daar gesê is die kinders en die vroue het die gewere gelaai vir die mans terwyl hulle die geveg geskiet het. En die kinders was almal hier in die middel gewees en beskermd gewees binne in hierdie laar. En toe ek nou my ekstra inligting gaan begin bylees, net om regtig 'n groot prentjie te kry, voordat ek begin om deur hele handleiding te lees, toe kon ek nêrens opspoor dat daar iets gesê word van die vroue en kinders nie. Inteendeel, daar word gepraat van die mans en van die werkers wat saam was. Onmiddellik het ek begin besef, daar's 'n woord wat ek nooit regtig opgelet nie, dit is 'n veg-ekspedisie en gaan probeer uitvind, okay, goed, wat beteken 'n veg-ekspedisie? En om toe te begin agterkom maar 'n veg-ekspedisie beteken, dit is net 'n groep mans wat gaan om 'n straf uit te oefen of om te gaan veg. En dan maak dit sin met al die ander inligting wat ons gaan lees het, maar daar is nie mans en vrouens by nie. Dit was nie 'n toevallige botsing met die Zulus wat meegebring het dat daar vrouens en kinders wel by was nie. Hierdie was Pretoria wat sy groep gevat het en hier gaan ons. So dit was vir my baie interessant. Daar's nog steeds plekke wat praat van mans en vrouens wat ook en kinders wat by is. So ek dink dit was vir my baie lekker om toe met die kinders ook daaroor te gesels, om met my skoonpa daaroor te praat en te hoor wat onthou hy van sy skoolloopbaan daaroor. En om dan te besef dat geskiedenis is altyd in die oog van die persoon wat dit geskryf het.
Ja.
So jy moet weet hoe om navorsing te doen wanneer jy geskiedenis doen. En ek dink veral in ons land se geskiedenis.
Ja.
Dit hang af wie het die geskiedenis geskryf. Dit hang af uit watter oog jy daarna kyk. En ek moet daarby sê, dit is iets wat vir my van voetspore regtig waar 'n geweldige positiewe punt is. Dit word regtig so neutraal as wat dit moontlik kan wees, word dit weergegee, en wanneer daar die oomblik sulke konflikidees is, soos maar wat van vrouens en kinders by Bloedrivier, is daar die vrymoedigheid het jy om verder te gaan soek. Daar word nêrens iets op jou afgedwing of dat daar vir jou gesê word, maar as jy nie so glo nie, dan is daar fout nie.
Ja.
En ek dink maak dit 'n verskriklike positiewe ervaring om daardeur te werk, en mense hoef nie bang te wees, maar wat se tipe geskiedenis gaan nou op my afgedruk word in 'n kleurvolle land soos wat ons het.
Yeah. I think that from leading on from that, it's actually important to perhaps talk about the content of some of the books. It's not that we've gone out in particular looking for books that have racial slur or offensive language, but even in our Footprints programs, there are books that were written in a previous era that had errors in thinking, used words that we would never use in common language today. But we've chosen to include them because of the value of the other content in the book. And we don't want to censor out books because of that. We would much prefer to have parents discuss these things, because somewhere along the line, when their children are older, they're going to come up against, race issues, gender issues, male, female terminology. And it's much better for parents in the comfort and the security of the home to talk about why we don't speak like this. Why did they think like that? We even try and encourage parents in the guide to look at these things from a biblical point of view. Why don't we do that? Who is our neighbor? How do we interact with people that have a different belief system, a different skin color, a different whatever? So we're using those books, actually, again, using that word as a springboard for further study. And even in that very difficult space where, blood pressures go up very, very quickly. Shirley, I didn't know if you wanted to add something about the literature there. When we start to relearn history, we start to find, like we did with the Battle of Blood River, other things.
Yeah, well, there's always gaps and there's always bias. Mm-hmm. And I think what we've learned ourselves and what other people recommend is that as learners, which is us as parents and our children, We have to learn to read more than one point of view. You know, if it's a war, there's always two sides to the story, and even other issues, there's often more than one side to the story. And you have to read widely and then make up your own mind. And, you know, the gaps are in any curriculum. No program, even a school curriculum or anything, teaches you everything there is to know. And so our job is to teach our children to do research and to learn how to learn, so that when they want to know more about anything, they've got those skills to go and to make their own opinions and to think critically. And it's great fun to actually debate different issues that come up, you know. And, you know, South Africa does have a very, a history full of conflict, like most countries actually. But one of the things is to learn to understand other sides and then to walk in forgiveness, because it triggers stuff in all of us. You know, we are white women who were growing up during the apartheid years, and that has impacted us in some way. And there'll be people from other cultures and other colors who perhaps also grew up and experienced it firsthand. And now you're the parent and you're homeschooling your children in a different time, and it's going to trigger reactions in you. But we need to recognize what they are, and then we can try and find healing and walk in forgiveness. And I think get rid of the anger that we feel. You know, sometimes we feel we are blamed for things that a previous generation did, or sometimes we just feel trapped because of what previous generations suffered. We pick up anger on behalf of other people, even if we're not, you know, directly impacted ourselves. So there's a lot to work through when you start digging into the history of our country.
Yeah. I'm just quickly looking through the other thing that we wanted to chat about, which was we chatted about the books. But what is the main difference? And both of you jump in here. What is the main difference do you feel between Voetspore and using another sort of more school at home approach to home education? We've covered obviously the springboard and the rabbit trails you can go down and the literature and that sort of thing. But what would you say would be the thing that really separates all of our footprints programs, I suppose, from the others? Who's first?
I'll go first and then let Linnie go finish off in Afrikaans. How's that? I think besides having used footprints myself with my own children, but hearing also the lovely feedback we get from other families, what I think is really the big difference is that the children become enthusiastic. They want to do it because they want mommy to read them those stories. They can't wait to hear the next chapter. And that just takes all the stress out of homeschooling and puts joy in its place. The mom is just delighted to have kids that want to do this. And then you can go out into your local community and you can actually experience what you've learned. And so it's relevant to them. And that's part of why they love it so much. So I think for me, that's kind of the number one factor, but maybe Linnie's got more to add.
I think I also will absolutely agree. Vir my was dit nou begin dit regtig 'n leerervaring die hele dag in die huis wees. Selfs al ry ons het 'n maand terug het ons vir vriende gaan kuier in Kommetjie. En dit was 'n baie ontspannende Sondagmiddagrit. En die hele eindpad het ons gepraat oor die Liesbeek rivier en waar was die eerste groot skuur en waar was die Rondebos. En skielik is, sonder dat die kinders dit agterkom, is hulle besig om te leer. Is besig om inligting wat hulle met 'n teksboek sou moes leer en fill in the blanks moes gedoen het om dit vas te lê. Is hulle besig om te ry in die area. Hulle is besig en ek kan vir hulle vra en hulle kan skielik sê, "O, is dit wat mamma bedoel het?" So dit is vir my die verskil. Dit is nie net 'n boek wat gelees word wat sê ja, dit is wat dit is nie en daar's nie regtig as ons regtig verder daaroor wil ondersoek en stel, dan vat dit regtig soos Shirley sê van my baie inset om te probeer om vir hulle ekstra goed te kry wat hulle betrokke kan kry. Hier is dit 'n kwessie van, jy maak letterlik die boek oop en die volgende oomblik spring daar 'n wêreld oop voor jou. En kinders gaan eenvoudig op hulle op hulle ekspedisies uit en jy moet eintlik op 'n stadium sê, hoorie so liefies, dis nou klaar, ons stop nou eers. Want mamma het nou ander goed om te gaan doen.
Ja.
Sodat hulle te moet trek om daar te wees nie. En alles, die literatuur, die skryfwerk, die copywork, al daai goed kan ingetrek word sonder dat die kinders dit besef. En ek dink dit is die absolute onskatbare waarde daarvan.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really lovely. So just some sort of particulars about the program for parents who've got this far, because this is normally not as long as we normally talk. So Footprints is split into 2 modules. Module 1 is ready for ordering now, and Module 2 will be mid to late next year. We've got in Module 1 6 sections, and each of the sections covers a time period, right from the first indigenous population groups through to where we finish off at the Great Trek in Module 1. There are books, reading books included. All of the background information is in the parent guide. We give you lists of places that you can go to for 8 stappies. There is a online course, with a web page with additional information for parents to watch videos or to read further. And then there is also included in the history portion, we've got a natural science, and that is where we look at the different biomes around the country and really special things that our country can boast of. And we're not just talking about the big 5. I mean, there's some amazing things that we've been able to uncover. So sounds like an alarm's gone off there. And that's the way the program is meant to work. We anticipate that it'll take, surely about a year for a parent to work through Module 1 by doing all of the reading, all of the activities that we've got planned, outings, further rabbit trails. Do you think that's about fair? About a year? You're muted still.
Sorry, I had to mute myself. Sorry, I'm not distracted.
No, it's all fine. So I was saying, do you think that it'll be about a year for a parent to work through for section 1 with all of the reading material, the activities, outings, maybe a footprints holiday?
Is that for the first section?
Yeah.
I think so, because that's what we are hoping to do. We really want to tour through the country by the end of next year. So, and I really think that is possible without rushing the children and without keeping them from exploring rabbit trails. It's really easy. Yes, one can do that.
Definitely. We don't, just as a note, we don't give parents a schedule, and the reason that we don't is exactly that, so that you can go on your own rabbit trails, that you are not kept in a straitjacket and having to tick blocks, that you've done so many pages, to try and rather give parents the freedom to explore things as much as they want to, but even if they just do the minimum that is in the parent guide, knowing that they will definitely be covering all of their bases. So anything else that we want to add before we say goodbye? Or are you done?
Vinnig bynoem, ek dink dit is belangrik dat mense ook moet weet, dit beteken nie dat as jy in 'n sekere gedeelte van die land bly, gaan hierdie program vir jou nie van groot waarde wees nie, want omdat al die verskillende biome oor die land gedoen word, gaan jy op 'n stadium in die area bly waarin iets van voetspore gebeur. En ek dink dis 'n baie belangrike punt om te onthou, want mense kan so maklik dink, maar ek bly nie in die Kaap nie.
Ja.
Want jy gaan altyd, op 'n stadium gaan jy in die area bly waar daar iets kosbaar gebeur en jy gaan daar 'n voordeel hê. So mense moet net dit ook onthou.
Yeah, or you're going to plan a holiday to go to one of those places. I mean, I've been looking at that drone footage of Hole in the Wall on the Wild Coast, and I said to my husband the other day, I said, we're not homeschooling anymore, but we're still learning. That's on the to-do list to go to that place. It looks absolutely amazing. Well, on that note then, it was so lovely having you here, and Linnie, just you know, to say a public thank you to you for the hard work that you've put in, along with Linda Heckroot, also editing alongside you, but you've really been our #1 research assistant, and for that we are deeply grateful, and homeschoolers around the country are going to be too. So thank you. Have a lovely rest of the day, everyone.